Behind me sits a vehicle that defies every law of physics you thought you knew about the road. It looks like a simple work truck, a 20-year-old Ford that you might see hauling timber or parked at a construction site. But beneath that weathered exterior lies a cold-blooded supercar killer. Today, we are putting everything on the line to prove whether a 1999 Ford can truly humiliate a modern Corvette on a professional track. If this truck crosses that finish line first, every rule in the automotive handbook is getting thrown into the trash, and the hierarchy of speed will be rewritten forever. The year was 1999, an era defined by excess and the pursuit of raw power. Back then, Ford engineers weren't interested in fuel economy or cargo space. They were gathered in a secret room with one singular aggressive mission: build a truck that makes supercar owners cry. They wanted something that could carry a payload in the morning and ruin a Ferrari's reputation in the afternoon. The result of that mad science was this supercharged beast, a machine that instantly claimed the title of the fastest production truck in the entire world the second it rolled off the assembly line. It wasn't just a vehicle, it was a statement of dominance. But as we stand here decades later, the air thick with the smell of gasoline and anticipation, the ultimate question remains: does this relic of the 90s still have the teeth to bite a modern speed machine, or is it just a loud ghost of the past? There is no more time for talk because the engines are screaming for release. We are heading straight to the tarmac where the atmosphere is electric. On the right side of the lane, we have a precision-engineered Corvette, a 350 horsepower masterpiece designed for nothing but velocity. On the left, the muscular, heavy, and intimidating Ford SVT Lightning. The contrast is almost ridiculous, a sleek silver bullet against a hulking wall of American steel. The drivers are locked in, the crowd is holding its breath, and the lights are beginning their sequence. 3, 2, 1, and go. The sound is deafening as both vehicles launch, but something incredible is happening. The front end of the Ford literally lifts toward the sky as the tires struggle to grip the earth, while the Corvette is caught in a frantic spin, burning rubber but going nowhere. You are watching history being rewritten in real time as that truck surges forward like a freight train, with a jet engine strapped to its back. But as the smoke clears and the shock begins to settle, a massive mystery starts to emerge from the shadows of this victory. This truck is clearly a masterpiece of engineering. It broke records, it shattered expectations, and it sold out almost as fast as it drove. So, if the SVT Lightning was such a massive success for Ford, why did they suddenly kill it? Why did the production lines go silent? And why don't we see a modern version of this supercharged monster prowling the streets today? The industry logic doesn't add up, and the real reason behind the disappearance of the Lightning is far more complex and darker than a simple change in market trends. The SVT Lightning was more than just a fast truck. It was a legend that forced every other manufacturer to look over their shoulder. Yet, Ford's decision to end its reign remains one of the most controversial moves in automotive history. A choice that split the community right down the middle. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this truck is still the ultimate king of the road, or is it just a piece of nostalgic scrap metal that had its time? Let's settle this in the comments and see which side wins the debate. Also, you won't believe the secret history we uncovered for our next episode, where we reveal exactly why this specific model ended up on a prohibited list that almost erased its legacy. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the moment we uncover the truth. The year was 1999, a time when the world stood on the brink of a new millennium. Yet the automotive industry was about to witness a revolution that no one saw coming. Inside Ford's special vehicle team garages, a group of rebel engineers sat around a table with a singular, chaotic vision. They wanted to destroy the stereotype of the humble American workhorse. At that time, everyone believed a pickup truck had a fixed destiny to haul lumber, sweat on construction sites, and move with a sluggish, utilitarian heavy hand. But the SVT team wasn't interested in utility. They were obsessed with violence and velocity. They took a standard F-150 chassis and began a process of radical transformation that felt more like a mad science experiment than corporate manufacturing. When the Ford SVT Lightning finally rolled out of the shadows, it didn't just enter the market. It kicked the door down. The heart of this beast was a 5.4-liter V8 engine equipped with an Eaton supercharger that produced a haunting, metallic wiener sound that soon became a funeral dirge for unsuspecting sports car owners. The moment that supercharger engaged, the Lightning stopped being a truck and became a force of nature. It was an era where you could pull up to a stoplight in a sleek, European exotic or a high-end domestic coupe, look over at a massive wall of blue oval steel, and feel a sense of smug superiority right up until the light turned green. In those seconds, the Lightning would lunge forward with such savage torque that it left elite drivers staring at a pair of receding round taillights and a cloud of tire smoke. It was one of the greatest ironies in history. A vehicle designed to carry gravel was consistently humiliating vehicles designed to win trophies. This wasn't just a marketing gimmick or a limited-run novelty. It was a legitimate engineering masterpiece that redefined the limits of what a heavy frame could do. Ford had managed to create a cult icon that defied the very laws of physics, balancing a massive front-end weight with enough raw horsepower to launch it like a rocket. It was the fastest production truck the world had ever seen, a title at war with a sneer. But as we look at this 1999 legend today, the stakes have shifted. The world has moved on to hybrid engines, carbon fiber frames, and computerized traction control. We are here to find out if that old-school brute force American muscle can still hold its ground against the precision of modern machinery. Is the SVT Lightning a timeless predator, or has the evolution of speed finally left it behind in the dust of history? What makes this specific showdown so legendary is the sheer audacity of the comparison. On one side, we have decades of refined aerodynamics and weight reduction. On the other, we have a heavy, supercharged brick with a bed. The expectation from the crowd is that the modern Corvette will dance around this relic. But those who know the history of the Lightning know better than to blink. We are testing the soul of an era versus the perfection of the present. Every bolt in this truck is screaming to prove that age is just a number, and that a true king never really loses his crown. As the sun beats down on the pavement and the engines reach their peak operating temperatures, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. This isn't just a race. It's a battle for the very identity of what makes a vehicle fast. If you've ever felt like the underdog, or if you simply love the sound of a supercharger screaming at full tilt, this is the moment you've been waiting for. We are about to see if the Supercar Killer still deserves its name, or if it's time to retire the legend to the museum. This journey into the past is just getting started, and the results of this first heat are going to send shockwaves through the car community. I want to know what you think's there. Any modern car that can truly intimidate a well-tuned Lightning, or is this truck simply untouchable? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into automotive adrenaline, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss the chaos we have planned for the next round of testing. The time for speculation has officially ended, and the concrete reality of the track is all that remains. We are moving directly to the starting line, where the air is thick with the scent of high-octane fuel and the shimmering heat haze rising from the asphalt. To the right stands the Corvette, a masterpiece of modern fluid dynamics, looking like a silver blade ready to slice through the wind. To the left sits our challenger, the Ford SVT Lightning, a towering wall of supercharged aggression that looks like it wants to punch a hole through the atmosphere rather than glide through it. The contrast is visceral. It is a battle between a rapier and a sledgehammer. The drivers are focused, their knuckles white against the steering wheels, and the engines are beginning a low-frequency roar that vibrates in the chests of everyone standing within 100 yards. This is the moment of truth that we promised. The staging lights begin their rhythmic descent. 1 yellow, 2 yellows, 3. The world seems to slow down into a series of frozen frames, and then, in a flash of blinding green, the silence is shattered by a sound so violent it feels like the earth itself is tearing open. 3, 2, 1, and gas it. The launch is absolutely chaotic. The Corvette's tires scream as they struggle to find purchase, dancing on the edge of a controlled slide. But the Ford SVT Lightning does something that defies every expectation. As the driver floors the pedal, the massive rear tires bite into the pavement with terrifying efficiency. The front suspension stretches to its absolute limit, the nose of the truck lifting toward the sky like a speedboat hitting a massive wave. It is a raw display of torque that looks almost supernatural. For a split second, the Corvette is left standing in a haze of its own blue smoke, and the heavy Ford surges forward with the unstoppable momentum of a freight train. You are witnessing a total eclipse of modern engineering by a 20-year-old legend. As they scream down the first 100 yards, the gap isn't closing, it's widening. The whine of the Eaton supercharger on the Lightning is a high-pitched mechanical scream that drowns out everything else on the track. It's a haunting, beautiful noise that signals one thing: absolute dominance. The Corvette driver is rowing through the gears, desperately trying to claw back the distance, but the Supercar Killer is living up to every syllable of its name. This isn't just a race. It's a public execution of the idea that newer is always better. The spectators are in a state of pure shock, some cheering, others staring in disbelief as a vehicle with a refrigerator leaves a dedicated sports car in its wake. As the two machines thunder toward the finish line, the physical presence of the Lightning is overwhelming. It's a blur of red paint and roaring exhaust, a heavy-duty ghost from the 90s coming back to reclaim its throne. The wind resistance should be dragging it back, the weight should be a tether, but the sheer brute force horsepower pouring out of that V8 engine is overriding the laws of physics. The Corvette is finally starting to gain its footing, its sleek profile helping it recover some ground, but it's too little, too late. The Ford crosses the line first, the victory confirmed by the flashing lights of the timing boards. The underdog didn't just win, it dominated. This first beat has proven the vaunted legacy of the SVT team wasn't just marketing hype, it was a promise kept in iron and steel. We set out to see if a 20-year-old Ford could humiliate a modern icon, and the answer is written in the black rubber streaks left on the starting line. But as the engines cool and the adrenaline begins to recede, the victory feels bittersweet. Seeing this level of performance only makes a central mystery more painful to contemplate. If this truck is capable of such legendary feats, if it can still humble the best of the modern era, then the question of its disappearance becomes an elephant in the room. Why would Ford walk away from this kind of magic? What happened behind the closed doors of the boardroom to ensure we never saw a successor to this throne? The answer is waiting in the next chapter of this story, and it's a revelation that will change how you look at the automotive industry forever. What do you think about that performance? Did you expect the Lightning to launch that hard, or were you betting on the Corvette's modern tech? This is where the story takes a turn from the track to the secret history of the Blue Oval. If you're as stunned as we are, make sure you're subscribed so you can follow us into the dark history of why this truck was eventually retired. Let us know your reactions in the comments. Was this a fluke, or is the Lightning truly the greatest truck ever built? The visual of the Lightning crossing the finish line ahead of the Corvette is an image that stays burned into your brain. But as the cheers fade and the smell of burnt rubber lingers in the air, a cold, hard question begins to settle over the track. If this truck is truly this fast, this iconic, and this capable of destroying the competition, then why is it a ghost? We are standing next to a vehicle that redefined a brand and created a cult following that persists decades later. Yet Ford, a company built on the philosophy of winning, decided to pull the plug. They didn't just stop production. They essentially buried the concept of the high-performance, street-tearing street truck for years. Why would any manufacturer, especially one with a winning hand, fold their cards and walk away from the table? To understand the disappearance of the SVT Lightning, you have to look past the horsepower figures and into the shadows of the early 2000s automotive industry. It wasn't just about sales numbers, because the Lightning was selling out. It wasn't about a lack of interest, because every enthusiast magazine at the time was putting it on the cover. The reality is a tangled web of shifting regulations, corporate fear, and a sudden, drastic change in the American identity. As the new millennium progressed, the world was becoming obsessed with utility in a different sense. SUVs were beginning to dominate the landscape, and the focus of the big three shifted from raw, unadulterated speed to mass-market family haulers. The Lightning, with its 2 seats and its thirst for premium fuel, started to look like an outlaw in a world that was becoming increasingly obsessed with safety ratings and efficiency. But there is a darker, more technical reason for its demise. The very engineering that made the Lightning a supercar killer made it a nightmare for the bean counters at headquarters. To produce the power necessary to move a 3-ton truck like a bullet, Ford had to use specialized components that were becoming increasingly expensive to manufacture. At the same time, the rising cost of insurance for high-performance vehicles meant that many young enthusiasts, the lifeblood of the SVT brand, were being priced out of the driver's seat. Internal documents and rumors from that era suggest that Ford was terrified of the liability. Having a truck that could outrun a police cruiser was a marketing dream but a legal liability nightmare. They were creating a monster they could no longer control. And the sacred or prohibited nature of this level of performance began to worry the suits in the boardroom. The pivot happened almost overnight. While the fans were begging for a third-generation Lightning, Ford was already redirecting its resources toward the Raptor, a truck designed for the desert rather than the drag strip. They traded street speed for off-road durability, effectively ending the era of the supercharged street truck. It was a calculated move to broaden their appeal, but in doing so, they left a void that has never truly been filled. The SVT Lightning wasn't just discontinued, it was sacrificed for the sake of a safer, more versatile corporate image. Today, when you see a Lightning on the street, you aren't just looking at a fast truck. You're looking at a survivor of a civil war within the halls of Ford, a battle between the rebels who wanted to go fast and the executives who wanted to stay safe. The truth about why we don't see a modern, supercharged V8 Lightning on the showroom floor today is a mix of corporate greed and a changing world that no longer rewards raw, unfiltered aggression. It's a story of a legend that became too powerful for its own good. But as we've seen today on the track, you can stop the production line, but you can't kill the soul of a machine. This truck still breathes fire, and it still knows how to win. The mystery of its death only adds to the weight of its legacy. Is the SVT Lightning a victim of its own success, or did Ford make the right call by moving toward the off-road Raptor era? I want to see your debates in the comments. Was the end of the Lightning the day the cool Ford died, or was it a necessary evolution? We are uncovering the deepest secrets of these forbidden machines, and you won't believe what we have lined up for the final reveal. If you want to see the full prohibited list and the hidden prototypes that Ford tried to hide from the public, you need to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned. The story of the world's fastest truck is far from over, and the best is yet to come. The SVT Lightning was more than just a fleeting moment of brilliance. It was a defiant middle finger to the status quo of the automotive world. It proved that you didn't need a low-slung Italian chassis or a German badge to command respect on the track. You just needed a supercharger, a heavy foot, and the audacity to believe that a truck could fly. But as we've seen, Ford's decision to pull the plug on this monster wasn't based on a lack of performance. It was a calculated retreat into the safety of the mainstream. They traded the raw, screaming adrenaline of the street for the rugged, marketable image of the desert, leaving the Lightning to become a whispered legend among those who still value pure, unadulterated speed. Looking at this truck today, standing still after its total domination of the Corvette, it feels like a monument to an era that we might never see again. It represents a time when engineers were allowed to be crazy, when power was the only metric that mattered, and when a simple pickup could make the world's elite drivers look like amateurs. The fact that it was eventually sidelined only makes its presence here today more meaningful. Every time that supercharger whines, it's a reminder that true performance doesn't have an expiration date. It's a ghost that refuses to stop haunting the dreams of every sports car owner who thinks they're the fastest thing on the road. Now, I want to turn the floor over to you, the real enthusiasts. Was Ford right to move on to the Raptor and leave the high-performance street truck behind? Or do we desperately need a modern, supercharged V8 Lightning to reclaim the throne? Is this truck a timeless masterpiece or just a beautiful relic of a bygone age? Let's get a massive debate going in the comments below. I want to hear your stories, your opinions, and your wildest theories on what a 2024 Lightning should have been. This journey into the prohibited history of Ford is only just beginning. We have spent months digging through archives and tracking down rare prototypes that were never meant to see the light of day. In our next video, we are going inside a secret collection to show you the Lightning that never was. A prototype so fast and so dangerous that Ford executives ordered it to be hidden from the public forever. You do not want to miss that reveal. If you enjoyed this showdown and you love the history of these forbidden machines, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. Join the community and stay tuned, because we are about to uncover the secrets they tried to bury. See you in the next one.